Hey, welcome everyone to the Archicad User Monthly Webinar for July 2023. Let me know that you can hear me and see the screen, and we shall get going. So we've got 27 people in the room right now, and more I'm sure will be coming in the next few minutes. And let's see, let me bring up my questions thing so I can see that. So Paul Whitworth, hey. And just say where you're calling in from. Of course, I know Rich Matthews in Australia, Richard White. I'm not sure where you're based. Jeff Griffin from Ann Arbor. Okay, so we got Australia and the US here. All right, so please just say hello and let us know where you're calling in from. So today, I was going to have a guest, but that didn't work out. So I realized at the last minute, oh, what am I going to do? So my fallback, my standard is coaching clinic. So today I invite your questions, anything that you would like me to go over. Most of the questions, maybe all of them, will be Archicad related, but if you had some other questions about anything at all. My other specialty, some of you know this pretty well, others may be unfamiliar, is I co-founded the Architect Marketing Institute, which helps architects and building design professionals attract and win better clients and projects. So if you had a question about marketing or attracting clients or winning clients, whether it's using Archicad or some, just in general, how to compete and win, I'm also open to talk about that. So, hey, Ken from Colorado, Chris from Denver, all right, Clara from Johannesburg, so we've got Africa there, and Tataranu from Romania, so we have Europe, and Ian from Scotland. Okay, so anyway, I do have a few questions that were sent in ahead of time, and I will try to pick out the ones that are from people who are on the call. Hey, Ray, I see from Pennsylvania, and I know you sent in something as well. So from the people who've just said hello, I know Ray sent something in, and Chris Craver sent something in. So the two of you, will have you go up first. Let me just review what I've got here, and then figure out which one to go with. Okay, so Chris, okay. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Let me just see, I asked you if you would send something in. Let me open up your line, Chris, and let's see if you have something that you can share, because it was a very interesting diagram. So Chris, your line is open. So just click on the microphone icon in the GoToWebinar control panel.
Hi, Eric.
Hey, Chris. So you had a question, and the images, let's see, so you had this cross-section image here.
Yeah, I apologize. I wasn't able to pull it together and send you the Archicad file.
Okay. If you can do it now, then we can open it up. What version of Archicad are you running?
This project's in 25.
Okay. And so, you've got obviously a very detailed cross-section in 3D. How did you do it? And what's your biggest question? Like, hey, you're doing it okay. Obviously, it looks very clear. What do you want to be doing differently or better or easier?
I'm using composites for the walls. And I know with complex profiles, you can manipulate like the wood framing from the exterior finish, which in this case is CMU. And I want the CMU to go down to the top of the foundation, but I want the 2x6 framing to sit on top of the floor joist, as it would be built. But what I did here is I just pulled the bottom of the wall down to meet the top of the foundation. So the 2x6 framing is actually all the way down to the top of the foundation as well. Yeah, right there. rather
Um,
than
okay. Well, so what's wrong with this picture? Is this picture perfect, but you had to do some touch up, or what needs to happen differently in your Archicad world? Because obviously it looks pretty clean.
um, I've only used complex profiles for walls a couple of times, and I always feel like I run into a couple little hiccups with those. So I I think this would be a candidate for a complex profile where I could pull the 2x6 wall up so it does actually just sit on the floor, and
Okay.
then
And so you've done it a little bit, but you need some more clarity, and we need to maybe explore some of how you set it up. So let me just go open up a sample project that I have in master template. So let's see, I'm gonna get my sample project, and I'll launch a new instance. So we'll have a sort of a vanilla version of Archicad, and then we'll have separately my master template here. So I think this should work. So in master template, and for those of you who are not familiar with it, this is something that I created with in conjunction with an architect named Scott Bulmer back in 2007, and have continued to update and expand, improve over all of these generations of Archicad. One of the things that is included with master template is a sample project, which is not intended to be architecturally interesting, but is interesting in the sense that it illustrates a lot of different design contexts and drawing challenges. And so, for example, we do have some complex profiles that are very similar to what you're drawing, because obviously it's a similar type of construction that we're in this particular case. So if I take let's say a section here, let's go here to our sections. So sections here, let's go to a section. And we'll look at this wall. You can see that this is one wall that is extending down beyond the rim joist here, but the framing, it's sitting on top of, the sheathing that is put, on top of the framing here. So this looks very similar to what you have.
yes.
Now, as a complex profile, it is straightforward. It's designed to be straightforward so that you can pull and push different things around. So it may be not easy to see, but there is a blue line here as opposed to here. This blue line indicates that if I go along the edge where I have a Mercedes and press down, that there'll be an offset modifier. So this is set up in the complex profile, and I can basically pull this up or down. Now, I'll just pull it down to here, and I don't know, I guess I can snap it to there. Not that that would make a lot of sense in terms of penetrating it. In fact, it's actually, this is drywall. It's not going to penetrate it because it's a weaker priority. But possibly you have a baseboard or something like that that you would be slipping in, installing in a different way. And this is going to just in a minute update the thing here. Well, taking a little longer than I thought, but basically each area in general can be pulled or pushed using what's called an offset modifier. And I'll show you how that's set up. And I'm surprised that this is taking so long. I do have a lot of things open on my computer. Oh, look at that. Let me get rid of my music. Get rid of this sheet here, calendar, WhatsApp. Okay, I should have killed all these things earlier, but here. So this may help just give my computer, less to focus on. Let's see, quit Firefox here. Okay. Well, I'm getting it down. All right, so let's see. Oh, and there it finally did come back. Okay, you can see that now this is exposed there. Now, and let's just take this one. If I select this again, there's a blue line here. I can pull this up. And these are two different skins, you know, a stucco and sheathing, and they could be pulled together with the offset modifier. Now, the way the offset modifier is set, I can do it visually like this in a section. I can do it in 3D, or I can open up the wall settings, and you'll find offset modifiers in this section. And here, you know, these are the numbers that I just visually grabbed, but but you can type in specific numbers there. So let me just undo, if it allows me to undo here. Undo here. Now, for some reason, my standard toolbar, which has shortcuts across the top, has disappeared. I've seen this happen many more times than I'd like, and as soon as this is updating, I will turn off the standard toolbar and then turn it back on, because it seems like it just somehow gets buried. So it's taking a while. And as soon as it comes back up, I'll get that going. Now, the way that, while it's happening, I'll just explain that an offset modifier is defined in the complex profile dialog by saying, hey, this edge should be something that could be adjusted on the fly for the context of the, of a section or for the construction situation. Because sometimes it's one way, sometimes it's another way. You define it as an edge in relationship to another edge or to a point. And you're saying how far from that point or from that other edge should it be? All right, now let me just go and get my toolbars standard. You can see it's checked here. I'm going to turn it off, and then I'm going to turn it back on. And there it pops into place. And I don't know, where it went, but that's the only way I can get it back. And that's where, like, undo, I can do from here. All right, so how is this defined? If I open up if I select this and say I'd like to, why am I not seeing? Okay, I deselect everything and go in and then say edit selected composite profile. So this opens up the profile manager, and we can see an image of the wall, and we'll see, the different skins. So like any composite, we have a main core, and we have some other different areas that are defined. In this case, as a complex profile, it's not uniform top to bottom, and I do have this framing piece here. So this 2x6 or whatever it is. Now, if I click here, you notice that each one of these is separate. And that's because in order for the section cut through to show the line work, I need to define these as separate pieces, even though really it's one piece with just an X as a graphic convention. So that's sort of a separate question of why does Archicad require that, or does it require that anymore? And the answer is it still requires that if you want to have an X, on a piece of cut lumber in section. Now you notice these little triangles here. These are indicating that there is an offset modifier. And you also notice that there's a darker gray here compared to this. So this is an edge that is part of an offset modifier. This one is as well, whereas this one is not. And so the idea here is this is sort of stable at the base of whatever you place the wall, and these things can go up or down. Now, if I click on this one, it'll be a little bit easier because there's only a single one to see, but this is an offset modifier. And let's see, we've got, okay, so just trying to think, oh, well, okay, you can see this reference, sort of a little mini dimension. It says gypsum offset base, and you notice that there is gypsum offset base is a listed item. And if I click on this, you can see it actually highlights that and makes this in green. Okay. Now, what this is saying is that from this point, which is obviously the top of framing, the standard position of this is 1.5 inches down, and it on the fly, this will be able to be edited and pulled up or down. Now, if I go to the one that is a gypsum offset top, it disappears. I don't see anything on the screen. That's because if I zoom out, it's up at the top area here, and again, it's measuring in case of a double top plate, that 3 inches is the standard, but, sometimes you want to have it go down below the ceiling drywall coming in, or up above, if you're, for some other reason, you want the drywall to extend. Now, if I go to the base depth here and go back down to the bottom, you'll see the base depth, is referring to both of these. And you notice there are 2 separate triangles because these are 2 separate fills and each one has an edge, but they are linked in this case. They're both going to move up and down together, which at least in this context makes sense. Although, in theory, you could have separate controls for each one of them. Now, how do you set up a control for an offset modifier? Well, if I go and select the gypsum offset base, this is this one, and I remove it here. Okay, so I've removed that. Now we don't see any highlight. We don't see that dimension thing there. So to add it, you click this button here. You say new modifier, and then say, I'll just do gypsum offset base. So I'll just use the same name. In fact, actually, you can pick from ones that are in use in your project. So it is generally a good idea to use the same name for similar functions in other complex profiles. So then you could actually select multiple types of walls, maybe a 2x4 and a 2x6 that both have a gypsum offset base, and use the same name and control them jointly. So I'll say I'm going to use that, and then it says it has a little warning basically saying that it has not been defined. I don't know if there's anything that'll tell you what the warning is here. If I click on this, no. All right, so what it is, it's waiting for me to say, well, where does this measure from and where does it to? And here it says select fill edge or node to start offset. So this is the prompt. Let me just, how do I move? There we go. Okay. Select fill edge or node to start the offset dimension input. So this is the edge that I want. You can see when I hover over it, it highlights the this one as opposed to that one or another edge. Let's say this is the edge I care about. Then it says select fill edge node or create a static point for an offset dimension. So I can go up to this point or perhaps this point here to say this is the corner of my framing and that's what I want to measure from. So I click on that and you can see that the circle is comes into play. I'm going to move the little dimension reference off to the side so it's just easier to see, and click. And you see now this becomes green. It has now been defined. So that's how you do it. You have a complex profile that's drawn with the shapes you want. You specify that you want to add a modifier, a new modifier, give it a name, either fresh or from the pop-up list of similar ones. And then you say, this is the edge I care about, and that's the, the point that I'm referencing. When you're doing it for 2 of them, you can literally go and say add. In fact, this one, if I hover over this, you'll see this little plus minus. This allows me to either remove an edge from this, which in this case would just delete it entirely, or to add. And you can see here, this would delete this one, but I could say, hey, let's add that edge so it would move down at the same time as this one. That's how these 2 were linked. Now, it would not work to have this down here, because what would happen is this bottom edge would move down with it, but the lines would move out on a diagonal. So, you'd have this crazy shape, a triangular wedge there. So this one really, is only relevant here. Now I'm going to hit the escape key to cancel the thing where I said, hey, I want to add to this. Anyway, once you've defined it, you say save and update this. In this case, it's saying that when you do it, it's such a significant change that Archicad will no longer be able to do undos. Like if I've been moving things or changing things or drawing things, I won't be able to undo. In this case, I don't care, about that, but do be aware that this type of modification, for some reason, Archicad says, it won't allow you to undo other things. But that's how you create these. Now let's look at your context here. That you sent in. Let's see, so it's, I was looking at it in a different place. So this is here, and the PDF. Okay, so what we can see, and let me see if I can zoom in on this. So the offset modifier, if you define this as a wall, you don't have a framing in it, but you basically are saying that all three of these skins, in terms of, is this CMU here?
Yes.
Okay, so CMU plus, whatever sheathing or adhesive or mortar or whatever you've got in between there, that all three of them are going to potentially move together with
Yes.
an offset modifier saying, hey, how thick is the floor, right? And you either type it in or you just drag it till it snaps to something.
Mm-hmm.
Now this thing here, this insulated area, what's going on? Is that actually supposed to be there?
Well, that's the 2x6 framing with insulation. That's part of that composite that's pulled all the way down to the foundation. So, but
Is it? But
in reality, there'd be a plate there.
In construction, would you have a void or would you have insulation or what would you
No,
have?
you'd have a 2x treated wood plate.
Okay, so depending upon how you draw this composite, I mean, you could literally draw a complex profile that literally was designed, whatever this is. Let's say that this is a 2x10, framing, or 2x12,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. You just define it. Hey, this is the notch, and this is a different piece, right? This is the actual piece of lumber there. The other possibility is you make it like I was just describing. You pull it down here. And when you pull it down, as opposed to stretching the whole thing and having this thing sit there, only this part goes down.
Yeah.
And then you have a void and you draw a beam,
Right.
would probably the simplest tool for that. So that would be optional. Now, I'm seeing that you've got the drywall coming, for the ceiling, coming in and wrapping around. And is there something that's going to fill in this gap, or what is it?
Well, the basement wall is a composite as well. It's concrete with a furred out 2x4 wall.
Yeah.
With drywall. So the top of that wall is the same, just it's all to that one point there.
Well, so does it stop here, or does it come up to the framing there, or what's
well,
going on?
They'd have to fill that in. The framing would go all the way up. The basement wall 2x4 framing would go all the way up.
Okay, would it go up to support this line?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it wouldn't support that floor framing, but it would go up to touch it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So then this area, you'd have a piece that would be in just the left part, and this framing space would go up. Okay. Well, so obviously, if you did this as a complex profile, again, you might have the top officially be here, but then have an offset modifier that says, I'm going to pull this up, whatever that extra space is. And then that would allow the drywall to come up and touch the ceiling drywall as well.
Okay.
Now you were, excuse me. So here, this is simple here. What's going on here? Would this go down? Would it stop in line with the slab? Does this come underneath it? What is it?
I don't have a footing shown yet.
Oh, okay. So you have a footing underneath here. Okay.
Yeah, there'd be a footing there, and the slab itself would probably be pulled back a little bit. and
Right,
sit
okay.
on top of that footing. Yeah.
All right, so yeah, so you just haven't modeled all of that. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and let's just see up here. So in terms of up here, the same thing, you know, you basically can say, hey, this doesn't have to be a separate wall. This just needs to be these pieces being pulled up. Now I do see that you have sheathing here different than this interstitial space there. Is this actually a change in composition?
It might be. Up above is going to be stucco on plywood, and I think the wall below with the CMU is
Okay.
insulation.
All right, so you could do it as two separate walls, you know,
Yeah.
given that it really is two different constructions. And if you do it in general, Archicad will not put a line here
Right.
because it
Okay.
will just say, hey, this is a continuous framing space. But you would see a line if it changed from, so this looks like plywood. What is this here?
I think it's OSB.
Okay. All right.
So
So if
it
it
could be
transitions from
one. Yeah.
OSB to plywood, then you would see a line. I'm not sure. Is this a continuous thing there, or you said this is stucco here?
That's stucco,
Okay. So
and
then
then that would be an
what would this be
airspace.
down? What would this be down here?
Airspace.
Oh, airspace. Okay. Well, so you would see the line where it's changing from airspace to stucco and
Hmm.
changing from OSB to plywood. You wouldn't see this line, and of course, you wouldn't see where the drywall just extends.
Yeah.
So if you stacked it, it would work just fine. But you could also make this a complex profile that included an upper part. Now, let's just talk a little bit about something else here. Okay, so this has got some height. You know, what would be a typical height from, you know, top of finished floor to where this transition happens?
7 feet.
All right, so this is 7 feet. Now, of course, it may vary. You might want to have some places where it's different. So this could stretch, or maybe it's not. Maybe, you know, at least for this project, these walls are, you know, a certain height. Now you could literally draw the complex profile with, you know, this lower section here and this upper section here, and it would work just fine. If you did want to stretch it, like maybe the height here changes, then you could potentially have the, you know, the stretch offset modifier affecting these edges.
Hmm.
You know, you could have them affecting this transition height. So you could have more modifiers. Of course, it's not like you need a modifier for every skin. You just need a modifier for every reference height, right?
Hmm.
Now, the other thing that we haven't talked about is that there's what's called a vertical stretch zone. So if we think about it, this whole area is all uniform. It changes down here and it changes up there. But if this ever were to change and you want, in terms of height, you can say, hey, if I make this taller, make this part taller, leave this as 2 feet or whatever this distance is here. You know, so you could stretch that. So that's done in the Archicad environment here. You see these dashed lines here.
Yep.
This is what's called the height stretch. And height stretch right now, it says nominally is 9'7". So that's the distance from here to here. And then we have the 3 inches here. So it's going to be 10 feet, you know, to the top. But suppose you had an 11-foot one. If you basically put this in and said make it 11 feet, it will stretch between this bottom and the top there. So these would just get longer or potentially shorter for the height stretch. So these things can be moved around. And in fact, this could be anywhere in here, because if this stretches to accommodate it, it's the same as if the whole thing stretches. But what you wouldn't want to have is have this down to here, because then what would happen is when it stretches, this would deform. It would get, you know, proportionately a little bit thicker. So you don't want that. You want it at furthest would be here.
Okay.
But basically by having this checked off as a height stretch, it puts these lines here. You can define where they are. And generally, you know, I find it convenient just to put it at the ends of the skins,
Mm-hmm.
you know, as opposed to somewhere in the middle. But technically, it would work the same, even if you had it just a 1 foot slice in the middle, and you just say, hey, that's going to get taller sometimes. So that's the the height stretch. So if I were to take, let's see, go to that section here, and I'm waiting. Don't know why it's Archicad is generally on this. This is a very recently purchased Mac, and it's been very fast. And like this, I wouldn't expect this to take so long. So I don't know what's going on today. Anyway, but if oops, I'll just demonstrate in terms of this particular one. If I take this wall and say that I want to drag a copy of it just for demonstration purposes here. All right, so here's a copy of it with the window in that particular section there. Excuse me. If I say that I want the wall to be, instead of 9 feet, to be 10 feet, what you'll see is all of this with the offset just moved up, moved up. It just sort of stretched this main area. And if I said I wanted it to be 8 feet, it would of course drop down, but it would keep the offsets. So that's the stretch thing. And you can stretch it based, using, let's see, where is the stretch thing? It would be, is it here? No. Here, okay. Yeah, so one of the corners here. So this says stretch it taller and short, top and bottom at the same time in opposite directions. Or this says leave the other point constant. And this says, just make this one move up or down. So when I was typing in a value, it was leaving it anchored at the base typically. I'm not sure I don't think with walls that you can anchor them at the top. With doors and windows, of course, you have some choices, and we typically have windows anchored at the top. And if you make it shorter or longer, then it keeps the top in line with the other windows. All right, so does that give you clarity?
Oh yeah, certainly does. Yes.
Okay.
Now I'm this far along in this project. Is it possible, to create this complex profile and then just change my walls from the composites?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
You'd want to test it out. I mean, you might want to just drag a copy of a wall off to the side and change its definition. So for example, if I take this wall that, is obviously not part of the model, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And then change the definition here. Right now it's this one, okay? And what if I change this as a 2x4 stucco? I don't think I have a 2x6 one, but I have 2x4 with different compositions. So here's another one. You can see this one doesn't have the offset modifier in the same way, it disappeared, that thing. So you can swap it out, as long as you have the same reference information in terms of the base, it should work. If you run into more problems, you can ask for some more advice from me.
Okay.
I'll just point out one other thing, which is if I go to the definition of this, there is an origin point here.
Okay.
So you can see little X's there, but this one is a little bit heavier down there. So what is that? That's the bottom of the face of framing, right?
Yeah.
There. As long as if you do replace a wall, as long as you have the anchor point in a corresponding point as location, it should do pretty well.
Okay. Okay, great.
Yeah, so let's see if there are questions. I do see some comments typed in. So Diego Blanco says, could the new integrated design options in Archicad 27 become a better way to work with multi-phase projects or even renovation projects? So that's a good question, not obviously related to this. So let me hold that for a moment. Jason Langley, create a hatch, then it replaces the X for the lumber. Okay. That's interesting. When you have a hatch that has an X in it, not quite sure. Generally, when you have a hatch in Archicad, it has a specific dimension. In other words, just like any fill, lines are repeated every so often. So in theory, if you had a hatch that was defined for 2x6 framing, so 5.5 inches by 1.5 by 5.5 or something like that, that might work. I'm not quite sure in this context whether you can set the origin of the hatch to the corner that you want. So that would be a question, because it could, if you can't control it, the hatch could sort of start in the middle of it. So that would be an interesting thing to check out. Ray Kelly says, how would you show a masonry ledge on the foundation wall? Okay, let me open up your line, because Ray, you had another question, so we're going to go on to you next.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'll leave your line open. You can just mute it if there's some background noise, you get a call or something. All right, so Ray, your line is open.
How you doing, everyone?
Good, good. You're a little bit faint audio-wise, so if you come closer to your mic, it would help.
Okay, is that better?
I mean, it's a little bit better, maybe. I don't know. Do you have a laptop that you have the top closed?
No, I have it open.
Okay. All right. Well, it's good enough. It just sort of sounds a little bit faint, but that's fine. Okay. So you said, how would you show a masonry ledge on the foundation wall? So let's just look at the context of what he submitted. Actually, it's we have. So we had this line here. Oh, yeah. So, it's in preview. That's why. Okay. So we have the foundation wall. So we're talking about a masonry ledge. So I apologize. I'm not exactly sure how that would look like. So would this be a rectangular piece? Would it be underneath? Where would this ledge be?
Okay, the upper CMU piece,
Yeah.
normally we would have that go, say 8 inches below grade.
Okay, so it would go down below grade. Yeah.
So you'd have a notch in the foundation wall.
Okay, so this foundation wall, you'd have a notch there. All right, so let's look at an example that probably is similar to what you're talking about. And I apologize, I sound like an architect much of the time, but there are times when I just know sort of what you're talking about, but I don't know enough detail because I'm not trained as an architect. So I apologize. Let me go and look at a different one here. So we have, for example, where do we have? Why am I not seeing profile? No, I see. Don't say. I'm not going to say this change here. No, what? Why am I not seeing the wall stone base? Okay, here is this. Why am I not seeing the standard ones that are footings here?
Go up towards the very top, I think, where it's wall.
Oh, you know what it is? Okay, this is what's confusing.
It
Okay.
took me a minute to figure that out.
All right, in Archicad 26, a lot of things have been changed in terms of organizational management. And for example, I'm in the wall folder of complex profiles. So it's not under walls, it's under foundation. So that's what I was looking for here. All right, so we have something that is a footing double key, one that's 18 by 30 here. Let's look at footing spread there, stem wall. Okay, so actually here's some ones that have some ledges, concrete plus ledge. There we go. All right, so is this somewhat similar to what you're talking about here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now when you talk about the concrete ledge, what part of this are you referring to?
Um,
Up here as or
that notch the notch that's taken out of the
Ah.
foundation wall where the masonry would sit.
Right. Okay. All right. So you're wondering how you would deal with creating something like this as a notch?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is a fill, and it's essentially, this is like a section. Okay. So, clearly it looks like a section, but of, one set of related materials, because obviously this is a different thing than that is. And I don't know whether these are poured separately, whether this is poured separately from that. I'm guessing because there's this shape in here and they're two separate pieces that they would be poured separately.
Yes.
Okay, but this shape here is just a fill. So you can define this or copy it from, one of your, details or one of your previous models and use this as the basis of a shape. Now, how thick is this offset? Well, you notice these two lines here. This is the stretch modifier for height. So right now, this lower section has some, this lower section has some foundation depth, and then we have stem width. Let's see, stem width, foundation depth here. Okay, so this foundation depth would allow this piece to get thicker or less thick from that point. You can see the reference there. This is actually locked in at a certain height because we don't see, we see offsets for left and right. These would allow you to have, asymmetrical or just extend these out independently. The stem width, again, this would allow you to keep this constant as the reference, but make this thicker or thinner. But this part is sort of locked into this particular, actually, no, it's not locked in. This, we have a thickness here. So, so I'm not sure whether everything is editable in the way that you might ever conceivably need, but you can make, by changing the width, this center section here could get thicker or thinner. So if it's underneath a 2x6 versus a 2x8 versus a whatever, this could get thicker, right? Then this looks like it's a constant here based on, I guess, sort of structural requirements, because there's no, you can't pull or push this one. And I think there are limitations, like I can't have this one or this edge and that edge both be independent. Like they could both move together, but if I wanted to change this 4 inches to 6 inches or a foot or something, then I have to have this be independent and reference that. You can see reference from this, and I can't make that one. So there are some limitations here, but this basically is allowing me to make the width, the stem width, potentially different. So combinations of these things and just defining a polygon shape is how you're going to get that. And then it will, notch in. Does that clarify it enough, or do you have more questions?
That kind of shows me what you would do, see, because that gives you a 4-inch ledge, because the foundation wall itself is 12 inches wide, the base part, and then they put a 4-inch ledge, which is normally what a masonry ledge is.
Yeah, all right. So, if I measure, this is 4 inches, that's 10 inches here, but in practice, I can make this, this thicker to make it, 12 inches across or whatever by adding 2 more inches to this. I can't change this 4-inch one unless I create another profile. So I could just say, I want to create there's a new, actually, let's see, there is, interesting. This new doesn't, I guess if I say, I haven't made any changes, but if I say new, and I say don't save because I haven't made any changes, then the new, it says, do you want to duplicate this one and then just edit it a little bit, or do you want to start from scratch? So
Okay, great.
All right, so that relatively clear then for this particular question?
Yes,
Okay, so related questions, Mark Hesse, nice to see you on the call. Apologies if I missed the beginning, but are all the profile BMATs can be scheduled? So BMAT, which is the term he's using, is short for building materials. So, and interesting here. Okay, so let's go and go back into the, so I'm in here. Why? Yeah, I'm a little confused because I've closed the Profile Manager editing window. How do I get back to the Profile Manager window? Because this allows me to switch between ones I'm looking at, but let's see, ledge here, and oh, here's edit. Okay, so they've changed some of the interface things. So anyway, there's edit now brings up this thing here. So so Mark, let me open up your line here. So in terms of scheduling, so we're talking about getting a listing that shows some data, like how much concrete is being used. Is that what you're talking about? So Mark, you'll need to click on your microphone icon. Go ahead. I can see you clicked on it and it's green, but I'm not hearing anything. So Mark, you might have to switch your audio, like there's some controls for audio to say which microphone, and maybe you have to switch that. Okay, looks like he just left the call. Maybe he's gonna call back in or something. So we'll see if he comes back in. I'll try to answer that question. So, but briefly, in general, Archicad can do a lot of quantity calcs, and it can do it based on you know, lots of rules and things. I don't know whether you can currently go and say, hey, can you figure out what this volume is and add it to this volume, because even though they're poured separately, they're, you know, the same. We want to total up concrete, and take that and multiply it by the length of the wall, and, you know, come up with volume. And of course, different contexts, you know, just get a total. Now, Mark, as I recall, let me open up your line again here, Mark. So Mark, your microphone is open.
Hello?
Hey, okay, we got you.
Oh, hey, Eric.
So
yeah.
you still involved in hospital work?
Well, only part-time right now.
Okay. All right. So your question in terms of scheduling, does it relate to commercial projects like, you know, hospital building type things?
Well, you know, like normally in the past when I've done special, you know, profiles, they're a single material. And so here I came in late, but you're showing like 3 or 4 materials, 5 materials in this profile wall. So I was wondering if since a lot of the special profiles are done with fill patterns and shapes, you know, can they be scheduled like a traditional composite would with the building materials, you know, quantity takeoffs or specification callouts and things like that?
So that's a good question. I don't have let's say a detailed answer. I'll tell you one way I know you can do it, and then another way that maybe is possible, because I know that there were limitations and now they could be gone. So let's just talk from a high level. When you're doing a schedule and you're listing things, whether it's doors, windows, or quantities, you're saying, hey, Archicad, look at the data, look at the model, and figure something out for me. And then there are rules for it. And of course, for elements like doors and windows, you're saying, do I want to list them all individually, or do I want to list similar ones like all the windows that are the same size and say we have 18 of those windows, you know, things like that. When you're doing quantity things, you're saying, well, what's the criteria? Well, anything that's made of this building material, concrete, I would like you to do something with. So you're choosing some criteria for what you're totaling. Then you're looking at rules for how to do it. Now there's some built-in things that say, hey, if you have a uniform type profile, you know, made of wood, made of concrete, it's just a shape. Even if it's a complex shape, but it has a cross section and it's all uniform, then it can do something that says, I'll figure out the volume for you. You know, I'll figure out how much concrete there is. Now, when you have a complex profile with multiple pieces, you know, like having this ledge up at the top then it's possible that it can say, I will just calculate based on the building material piece. But if it doesn't, and I remember we used to have to do this, you'd have to say, all right, I'm going to calculate just in 2D, and you can, you know, do some fills and have it report the volume and say, well, out of this total volume of this thing, 92% of it is concrete or whatever the heck it is. Okay, so then you can have a formula and say, when I'm doing this particular type of profile, please factor in not the total volume, but 92% of it or whatever that is. Now, the limitation there is if you have different contexts, sometimes it's a taller stem wall, sometimes it's shorter, sometimes, you know, it's thicker, thinner, whatever, then in that limitation, you'd have to essentially, instead of having one element that you push and pull, you'd maybe create several variations. So you'd have 2, 3, 5, 10 variations. Each one has a formula saying this one is 68% that, you know. So that's the workaround if you can't do it. But I don't have an answer whether you can now schedule the building materials. I'd rather not go into it here because I'd probably waste a lot of time trying to figure something out of context. So I'll just say that that's the way we could do it if you can't ask Archicad to get quantities for how much of the concrete is in this more complex shape.
Okay, yeah, thanks. I'm just looking for what the advantage of the complex profile is for a wall like that you were showing before versus, you know, traditional composites with maybe a couple of SEOs if necessary, but, you know, with all the building material priorities and everything, and intersection, you know, priorities, it seems like those would be sufficient for a framed wall. So, but I did come in late, so maybe there was a
No, I haven't
that's what I was
really gone into it, and that's valid questions. There are, you know, always pros and cons. So complex profiles do take some time for Archicad to calculate. So there are trade-offs, and if you have lots of them, you know, they can possibly slow down section generation. You can, of course, lay in, you know, framing, you know, and say that this you know, the ledge has a higher priority than, you know, than the vertical framing, which has the insulation and the studs. And so it can actually just cut in. But it is nice to be able to just draw a wall or many walls.
Oh, yeah.
And when you cut a section, it looks right. You don't have to make lots of little pieces, right?
Right. No, I could see that.
That's
yeah,
probably,
and I've seen you use that for like eaves and things like that. It seems really great.
yeah. So that's the main benefit, is that it's essentially a wall assembly in a single element, you know, as opposed to a bunch of pieces, you know. Now, when it's constructed, I mean, they are framing it, then they're putting on sheathing, and they're putting on cladding, and, you know, so there are a lot of pieces, but in Archicad, it's nice to just be able to draw, you know, a wall that has all this stuff in it. All right, so I'm going to go on to some other questions. Is that okay, Mark?
Yeah, thank you, Eric.
You're welcome. All right, so Rich Matthews. Hey, Rich, could you have a very thin fill to represent the crosshatch on the bottom member, i.e. one hatch on top of another? Could you have a very thin fill to represent the crosshatch on the bottom member? So this was a question from 15 minutes ago. So let me open up Rich's line. Now there's two of you. I'm going to open up both of them. I don't know, you probably only want to open up the microphone in one of them. Rich, imagine, oh, looks like you quit out of one of them.
I'm here now. Can you hear me?
Yep, absolutely. All right,
Right.
so a very thin fill to represent the crosshatch. So we're, you know, we're
Well,
talking.
instead of having 4 triangular sections, I could try this, I haven't, but I'm just curious, could you just have one rectangular section and then superimpose a very thin fill that represents that crosshatch? It sits on top, sits in front of that basically. Would that be represented then in?
Okay,
and-
well, if any fills that you draw in a complex profile are turned into solid things that run in the model. So that's the whole
Right.
idea. You're cutting a section through it. Anything that's a fill is solid and gets extruded along the length of the beam or the wall that you're working with. So, you know, if you're talking about making a fill that represents just the line, you know, that doesn't make much sense. Now, there are different ways. This is 4 separate ones. I've seen ones where there's actually one, and you basically take it out almost to the edge, draw a line down to the center, then back up to the corner. And so there's this tiny, tiny little gap in here, you know, but it's one piece, but it's sort of like, you know, imagine sort of slicing into it, you know, some notches, very thin notches or something. And, you know, because of the thickness of line work, when you represent it in a section, it can look just fine. And it's one piece rather than 4. But I think this is cleaner, right?
So why not the hatch on top though? Very, very, very thin, you know, like it still only gives you 2 fills to run through the length of the wall if you like, as opposed to having 4 fills running through the length of the wall.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if I just draw a new hatch, I'll just draw, let's see, a rectangular piece. Wait here. I pick this up, you know. It's interesting. Y, yeah, so 1 1/2. There, okay. Oh, what did I just drew? Oh, I had the wrong one. I wanted to do it here, there. Come on. So I want to get this as a reference. There, okay, and then dimension 2, dimension 1 1/2. Okay, all right. So here is a hatch. So in theory, you know, we could pick a different hatch here. And do we have general requirements? I don't know. Let's see. We have, well, let's just do something weird, you know, like this earth. Okay. So you can see the line work is here. This would show up in a section, but can we control where this line is? Can we make it into the corner? I don't think you can.
Make an X of that fill, basically, a very, very thin X. You know, elongated horizontally X and plant it on top of the. Anyway, look, don't worry. I can experiment with that, but
Yeah.
I thought
Well,
that
the
might.
thing is that this fill has lines in it, and yes, in theory, you could have a fill that was exactly the shape of a 2x4 or 2x8 or, you know, whatever shape here. But the problem is that when you place it, you can't control where these lines are. So you can't control it. It's going to be at the corner.
No. I'm talking about the actual exits. The fill is in an X shape. So you need to finally control that fill that you've got there now, form that into an X.
Right. So you're talking about doing something that might be going across to here and very thin. So I've got.
That's correct. That's now duplicate that, flip it over, and then
to make it very thin. Okay. Well, you could do that, but now I have these 2, and then I also have this background.
No. Well, yes, but
it has to be solid. It has to be solid here. You know. So.
Yeah, but you can control those fills in the middle there to make them that one fill. Anyways,
yeah,
look.
So you can experiment. If you create something and it works, send it to me. But my guess is that this is more efficient. You know,
right.
Just do that. All All right, so we do have some other questions. Clara Cruz Almeida. So Rich, you're in Australia, Clara's down in South Africa, so we're covering the world here. Can a drywall show in 3D the studs in both directions? Can a drywall show in 3D the studs in both? Let me open up your line, Clara. So we're doing Clara. Okay, your line is open, Clara. Okay, you want to try clicking your microphone? Oh, I don't know how to switch the mic. So there is a GoToWebinar control panel that you can bring up. It may be hidden behind something. It's a little floating palette. And then in that area, there would be...
Okay, I got it.
Okay, good. So when you say, can a drywall show in 3D the studs? So we've got, if I switch this to...
A standard partition wall shows vertical stud.
Yeah, so if I go to a 2x4 here, all right. So this is a complex profile with framing and drywall on each side, and then we have a ledge up at the top to support the next floor or the roof or the ceiling or the roof. So what are you trying to say? Can this drywall show this, or what do you mean?
In a standard drywall, especially if it's timber construction, your horizontal studs are at approximately 600, sorry, I'm talking millimeters, 60 centimeters, whatever that is. You have a repetition of in the horizontal studs.
Okay, well, this is the horizontal stud, one and then two stacked on top of each other. That's how
I'm thinking what the New Zealanders do. I can only refer to how I've seen it done in New Zealand. I don't have any drawings now, but they intersperse. It's nearly like a honeycomb. So every 600 millimeters verticals, there is also 600 millimeter horizontals repetition. So I think if I look at the scale of your wall, you just have these horizontal studs at the top and bottom.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so you have some that go across at different heights. So would these provide extra rigidity to the wall or fire safety, things like that?
Yeah, that's right. Because it's all done in a standard drywall or in timber. You just have got board on either side.
All right. Well, one thing. Let me just. I'm not sure whether this will depict it, but if I were to just draw, so rectangular here. So you're talking about something like this?
Yes.
All right. Well, you can place these things in here. This would work, and we would see it in the section. If you have them measure how far apart they are and make sure they're the right dimension. If you needed to have the crosshatch one, then you basically are gonna, do something with the 4 pieces like I did.
Okay. So, you said that this is a complex profile, and you've just defined every portion there, and then you just extruded vertically, horizontally, and
this would be a cross section that you would extrude horizontally by drawing, a standard wall on the plan. You say it goes from here to there, and everywhere where you cut through it, you would see, this framing.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah. Now, by the way, this is we can see that this hasn't been punctuated here. So there may be some issue with the fact that we have 2 fills on top of each other. The simplest thing there would be to essentially edit this fill. So, I can say I want to split it along this edge. And now this is a separate piece. And then I can split it along this edge that's hidden here, and then get rid of this. And now this upper piece exists, and then there's this interruption and lower piece. So, you know, you'd have to you'd ideally break up the voids or the insulated space between, you know, between the cross-sectional lumber.
Yeah,
That clear?
understood. Thank you.
Okay,
I
good.
got it.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
blocking, yeah, Jacek says blocking at 600 millimeters. Yeah, so so blocking is what we would call it here. I think that I agree, Jacek. That's what I just forgot the term. So thank you. All right, so I think we talked about Chris Craver's thing because we looked at that, and then Ray Kelly, you had something that you sent in, so let's take a look at that. And your line, I think, is still open. We had took your question about the ledge, right? So let me open up your other question here. And if any of you have a question that you want to just submit in, just feel free to type it in. As you can see, I am interspersing my answers and my focus. So Ray.
Yes.
Now I think actually you sent it to me in Slack here. Let me go bring Slack. So for those of you who are in the Archicad coaching program, you know, we have Slack as a discussion area. And if you like what we're doing here and you want to get my help on a regular basis, then you can sign up for the Archicad coaching program. You go to archicadtraining.com/coaching and you'll see information. Or if you sign up for my best practices training, which is archicadtraining.com, then you get a membership in my coaching program. And every week I hold court, so to speak, and do my best to answer questions. All right, so we have Ray. You said here is a stair. Okay, so this was the thing that you said, hey, yeah, I have a stair, it's an old house and things are, you know, not uniform. And I looked at this diagram and I went, well, it looks uniform, but then I realized, oh, 8-inch riser, 7.5-inch risers, and then 11 3/4-inch riser. Okay, and you know, up 5 steps at nominally 9.5, I guess there. Okay, so how would we do this? So that's going to be our subject of the next few minutes. So are you there, Ray?
Yes. Yes.
All right. So I'm going to say just from a high level, there are two conceptually different ways to do it. One is to say, this isn't really a regular thing. In other words, it's irregular, it's custom, it's built in a funny way. So let's make it out of pieces. Okay, so how would you make it out of pieces? Well, you could use the slab tool. And if you really only want a sort of schematic level thing, then you can have each one of these risers be a block made out of the slab tool with a certain height. And you just make them each the same width. It looks like all of these are, you know, the same depth of step. But even if they weren't the same depth of step, you could modify that. But you basically just stack, move them, multiply them, and just have each one with a different height. So hey, that would give you the line work on the plan, and you just have a stacked series of platforms, the top of each slab, and you know, maybe that's perfect. Now, if you use the stair tool, obviously the stair tool has a lot of different functionality, features, abilities that slabs won't have, you know, so, but the stair tool in general is constrained to saying, hey, running from here to here, each step is this, each riser is that, and you know, so you can customize those things, and I'm not quite sure how much we can customize in different areas. So there are different things, and I'm just going to talk again conceptually, then we'll dive in. If I have, let's just imagine a set of steps that's shallow and then a set of steps that get steeper, and they appear to be one staircase, they're just, you know, a transition. Maybe you start having the handrail, you know, when you get steeper, and at first it's really more of a, you know, plaza type of feel or something like that. Okay, well, you could make it literally out of one stair, but different flights. Now we think of different flights like, hey, you take a flight, you go to a landing, you turn around, you know, you have a scissor or you have an L-shaped thing, and then you have another flight. but you can literally interrupt a flight part way and say, in this lower part, it's one thing, in this upper part, it's another. And you could change the slope, you know, how deep the risers are. You could change the width of the stair, you know, because maybe it's working around an intervening wall or something like that. So you can have different sets of steps that would be, in the stair tool would be called flights. Now here, the extreme that I would consider is making the first step, which is an 8-inch riser, one flight of one step. The next 3, another flight that are at 7.5-inch risers, and then the final one be another one. So that would be possibly something that is not too hard to do. Let's see how this works. So we'll go to, I'll go to an untitled Archicad thing, and but I'm going to bring in that actual drawing. So this is a PDF, and I'm going to bring it in and put it to scale. And this is a useful, not trick, it's a useful way to bring in reference materials. So how do I do that? Well, let's go here. You provided it here. I'll download that PDF here. It's called 23112 Stair Notes PDF, right? And by the way, did you say how wide it was? I don't think you had the width of the stair, but that's not too consequential. So I'll just go into my untitled one here. We're going to go and say that I'd like to place external content into this. Now, if it was a more complex situation, I might put this on a, what do you call it, on a worksheet and use trace and reference. But in this case, I'll just put it directly on the plan because it's so simple. Place external drawing. I'll go to where I downloaded this here, this PDF, and open it and drop it in. Okay, now it looks like it might even be in scale. Right now I'm at 1/4 inch to a foot. This drawing that I brought in is currently at 100%, so it's whatever the PDF was defined as. Well, let's just see how is it to scale. So first of all, there are no snaps, so it wasn't the type of PDF that has snaps. Depending on how you create it, you might actually have snap points. But let's just measure and see. Again, my standard toolbar disappeared. So let me go standard, turn it off, standard, turn it on. There we go. Okay, so now I can go to the measure tool and say, let's measure from here to here. It says 1'8". Okay, so obviously that's not correct, you know, there. So what I'm going to do is say, hey, I'd like to take this. Now these are risers. You didn't define how deep these are, but you said, oh, 5 at 9.5. So they're 9.5 inches deep there. So what I'm going to do is say that I'd like to edit this drawing as I've placed it here by reshaping it. And one of the things you can do with the reshape is resize. So when you resize, you say, hey, I'm going to make it bigger or smaller. Do I want to type in, hey, I need it to be 50% or 200%, or do I want to define it graphically? Now, it's probably going to end up being 50% as big, but I'll define it graphically just so I can see how this works. So when you define it graphically, it says, enter resizing center point. Well, just arbitrarily, I'll go to this point here, and I'm just going to zoom in really tight so I'm right at the center of that intersection. It says enter first vector of resize ratio. So I'm going to go here, and it's locking nicely on the axis because it has sensitivity. You can see the dashed line. So I know it's going to be square, and I'll just put it as close as I can to the center there. Click. Then it says enter second vector, and what it is how big should this be, bigger or smaller? Well, I can see the number. Right now, originally, what I had was 1'7" and 7/8". I'm just going to say this was 9.5, I think. So I'll just type in 9 space 1/2, enter. Okay. So now, if I measure this resize thing, if I do the measure tool from here to here, yeah, 9.5. It's 3364. So it's now as close as I need it to be to being something I could trace over. All right. So if I were to do this with the slab tool, then I might just say, hey, let's do some shape like this. I'll make sure that it's nice nominal measurements. So there's the dimension 1. I'll say 9 space 1/2. Hit the tab key. It says 2'6" and 31/32. I'll say 2'7" here, and that is now a slab. And then I'll go and say I want to multiply this, and increment and spread is the simplest for this. I'll just be saying from here, touch the next one, and just keep going. And I'm not going to make them go up, because I'm going to actually just leave this having a constant base. I could make it go up, but let's just have a constant base. Say OK, and I'll say it starts here, it goes to there, and then it keeps on going until I have this many of them. All right, so it looks like something's a little different here, although maybe this is the edge of the floor and that is underneath and there's a nosing, I'm not sure. But it's certainly close enough. Now, if we look at this in 3D, there'll be nothing much to see because we're going to have 6 of these or something like that that are all, oh, interesting. We had all of these pieces and they all have the same texture. Let's just make them, select all of them and say that, oh, you know what, actually, I want these to be just simple volumes that, concrete is fine. Okay, there. So now this one, if I take this height up here, you know, and I'm going to do this more precisely, but we can just conceptually say, you know, this is what we're doing, right? So how do we get these heights, and what happens is, so this one should be going from 0 to, it's an 8-inch riser, so we say 8-inch. Whoops. This one, these are 7.5-inch risers, so it's 15.5. So why is that? What happened here? These are 0. Why is that 11 and? Oh, because I let's see, this say from current story -10. What is going on here? -8. Bottom and top. What? Oh, I don't even know how this just happened. So this is -10. So use your origin. Well, let's just say project 0 here, -10. That's weird. I don't know what's going on. We'll say the bottom is 0. Okay, so I don't know how, I guess when I put it in, I put them in underground, so to speak. So let's just, let me just move these all up here. So we'll just drag them up. So at least we'll be uniform starting point. So we had this one goes 0 to 8. This one goes 0 to 15.5, etc. And this one, you know, so we 7.5, 23 inches. So 23 inches. All right. So that's how we do it. And of course, there are regular risers, and it works. We can do that. So, you know, no big thing. It'll work on plan. So let's just take these and let's drag them down here. Okay, so that's my first step. Now let's look at the stair tool. Yeah.
You have an extra tread. There's only 5 treads.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 treads, and then this is okay. So
That is the foundation wall underneath the slab.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. Okay. All right. So let's just do the stair tool. So with the stair tool, we set up some rules. So I think we had the width of the stair was 2'7" here. We're going to be doing a structure now. The simplest thing is just to do it this way. We can look at treads separately, but let's just say that we were doing it as a simple thing with no finish here. Do we have flexibility for what we need to do? Your diagram says 5 at 9.5. So we're going to say that this is going to be, it's not going from first floor to second floor. It's just going up a small amount. So we're going to say it's not linked there. And 5 at 9.5 is 47.5 inches. So 47.5 inches here, which it'll then calculate 3 foot 11.5. And I say I need, oh, it's saying that there are 7 risers. No, it's not 7 risers. It's because it has some rules here that there's a minimum of this and a maximum of that. And of course, actually, it's more than this maximum. So I'm going to turn off the rules here and say, actually, I would like 5 risers of 9.5 inches. Okay. So let's just say that I did that and I run this across and maybe flip this to the other side here. And, oh, but I didn't set the depth. So let me go. So these were 9.5 inches. Oh, this is 9.5 inches at run. And then, so what do we, I was thinking, so the length of this, well, 9.5. So each one of these are these 9.5 in a run?
Yes.
Yeah, so 9 and what, so I was misinterpreting it. So what's our rise on these? They're 8 inches, 7.5 inches, and 11, whatever. So let's just say, at least anomaly, we'll just say that they're 5 and at 8 inches, just to make it a starting point. So we'll say that they're going to be 40 inches here, and we'll see that it's now 5 at 8 here. Okay. All right. So now if I do this here, yeah, so you can see that now we have these risers and they're uniform, which is not what we want, right? Now I'm just going to drag this down just so that we can see the data, you know, that you had here. So can we get different riser heights using this scenario? And that's a question. So let's look at this in 3D here. So we'll just go to 3D. And okay, so we have this funny graphic here, which you know, may be puzzling to very new users. It is because our model view option is set to all visible and unlocked. It's showing all of the data that Archicad has, including the head height. It's trying to say this, make sure you don't have anything bumping in this area because we need to preserve that. If I just make this 3D details, that goes away. Now I can change the way that this is depicted, even generally, by going to the structure and saying that this flight, I wanted just a uniform base here, you know, just to make it simple, you know, like that. Now, can we adjust the height of these things? I can't do it as a global setting because that's uniform and saying, hey, 5 of these, right? But I can say edit, and when I edit, can I select individual things? Now, in this case, it's a structure, so it can't edit it. If I had treads, I could change the shape of the tread. So that's something I know you can do. You can say, hey, the bottom tread is got a little extension, or it's thicker, or it's wider, or something like that. But we can't do it for the structure. So let's just see, what if we were to go and change this? Actually, let's go exit edit mode and try something else, which would be, what if we said, hey, it's not actually structure here, we're going to have finish here, that's you know, just a standard tread, and then I'll have no structure. All right, so now it's just going to be treads and risers here, and then we figure out, well, how would you support it? I'm not sure, but you know, let's just see what that does. Treads have a certain thickness. Let's give them at least some real thickness here, not 1/8 of an inch, but 1 inch. And the riser, I don't care. Well, we'll just give it 1 inch as well. There. All right, so now I've got a rather different situation. If I select this and I say edit it, I can select each tread, and I can do things like change the shape of it, and I can round this off, you know, so obviously sometimes you have an ornate ones that are going to be rounded, you know, like that here. Now we've got some sort of weird surface texture here, but you know, you can see the flexibility. Now, can I move it up or down in space? Can I go here and move it in space? If I say drag, no, it's not letting me drag that. So it is locked in to a height. There's a riser height there, 8 inches. So let's just say, can I just do 7 inches? What will that do? All right, so we can change it there. So I can't drag it, but I can change it. So let's now put this back to the floor plan and say, I'm in edit mode. This is 8 inches. Okay, that actually is correct. And this one is, it says it's 8 inches above the previous, but we want this to be 7.5, right? So we'll say 7.5. And let's try this 7.5 as well. Oh, but it says, oh, you have to compensate. You have to catch up, right? Well, no, we're not catching up here. And take this one, and we're going to do again 7.5. And then this one is going to catch up. It says it's 9.5. Well, here's 11.75. What if we say 11.75? I'm not sure if this will work at all, but it seems to be accepting something. So now let's look in 3D and did it actually do it? It's hard to tell, but it looks like this is taller and that's shorter. So if I measure here, you can see the Z coordinate says 8 inches. Here is 1 foot 3.5, so that's 7.5 above. 1 foot 11, which is 23 inches. Yeah, that's 7.5. That's 2 foot 6, that's 7.5. Yeah. And then this is the, you know, going up to whatever I said, 3 feet 4. So that looks like it's doing what we wanted, right? How does that look for you? So your line's open?
That would work. It is a concrete pour. So
Okay. Well, now that we've moved the treads up and down, what if we said, hey, you know what? We're going to have a concrete pour underneath it.
Okay.
I'll see. I have no idea. That's where I said I don't know whether we can do it by editing the heights of the risers. Maybe we can. So I'm going to exit edit mode. So it's still got all these points. You know, there's still, and if we look at it here, well, it's a little hard to tell. Actually, let's take a section through it. And then it'll be sort of nice to do it. So this is our stair here, right? Okay, so let's just cut the section through here and turn off the markers. So can I turn off markers on both of them? Yeah, I can. All right, so there. So let's go and open this. And so what are we seeing? This is probably, this is the all visible and unlocked. So let's just turn this, model view option to sections. Here we go. Okay. All right. So now I can edit this in section to some extent. I can change the overall settings of it. And so, for example, I can say, hey, there will be a structure and it will be monolithic, and the monolithic will go down to the base. Now, we don't have a landing, so we can ignore that. Just look at this front part. See what it does. Hey, look at that. Okay. So now you can see the heights match what you were talking about. So I don't know whether we had to create the treads or the risers there to do it. I was literally changing the riser height, you know, was what it was doing. So maybe you could skip that, but let's just see if I leave this alone or not leave it alone. If I go in and say, you know what, actually, we don't really need any finish on it. Yeah, there we go. All right. So that's a way to do it. Now, if I say that I edit this, can I select No, here you can see I'm only selecting the overall settings of this. I can't change that. So let's go to our 3D. And now that we have this, and you can see it's still taller here and whatever. But if I select this, so is there a way to select the riser? Oh, here, look, there is no tread, but then I can say change that. So, so even though, let's just double check the stair settings as a whole, there's no finish. There is no actual installed riser. There is a theoretical riser and a theoretical tread, but it's made of the concrete, right? So there we go. So that seems to do it. I did not have to break it into multiple flights. I simply had to get access to this. So maybe, you know, if we just have it as a concrete thing and go into edit mode, which we are in now, and then this is the structure. And this, when I go to the corner, it allows me to select the tread. So that was, I was hovering over this saying, hey, can I select the tread? No. Can I select it? No. Can I go here? Yes. And in fact, I can, there seems to be with the, on here, if I hit the tab key, that's the riser. And I don't know what I'm selecting now, which is it's normally when you hit the tab key multiple times, it'll cycle through it. But in this case, it's just saying, do you want the tread? Or if I hit the tab, that's the riser. You know, and you can see the riser is invisible, even though, you know, there is no riser, but I had set it to be 1 inch. If it was there, you know, that's why these handles are separated. So there you go. You just need to go to the corner in 3D to select this. I wonder if we can do it in section. If I go to the section up to here. Yeah, there actually I can select the tread and change it. So you just have to go to the corner if you want to adjust that. Can I move this up and down? I can extend this. That's interesting. That's the theoretical one. We don't have a tread there, but it did not let me drag this, but I can change it to, you know, let's just say 10 inches, you know. So you can't drag it, but you can numerically change the height. How's that?
Great.
Okay, so I would have never tried this on my own, but you give me a challenge, I'll see if I can make it work. So that's good. So let's see if there are questions or comments. So Morgan says, I have an example of an exfil for a stud and you give me a link. Cool. Let's take a look at that. So I'm going to copy this link here and let's open up Morgan's line. And there we go. Morgan, your line is open. So that was a fill. Let's see. So we had this one here. Okay. So Morgan, your line is open. You
Yes.
to go.
I mean, I think it's, I'm going in the direction that may help. I don't know if I got all the way there.
All right, no problem. Where are you based, Morgan?
Ventura.
Okay, excellent. All right, so this is a PLN file, so we'll just download that. Or actually, probably click to say open it, but let's see. I think I did download that. So it is here, fill distort PLN. So in this little example thing, I'm going to go and see if I can just merge it in. So if I we're on the first floor, I have to get out of edit mode for the stair. Now, by the way, you know, you documented this just putting, you know, 2D line work, I assume. Here, this stair has some settings saying, hey, show the number of risers. You know, it's got obviously a sort of a standard that I just typed in, and it's ignoring that because each one is different. So we could turn that off. So let me just just demonstrate that. So, hey, don't have 5 risers at 8 inches. How do we want to adjust this on the floor plan display here? The description here, number of risers, etc. There. Do we want the description? So if I go to the floor plan display, let's see, where is it? Grid and structure. Where is it? So show this. Floor plan display right now is saying by model view options. So it's going to do it based on some global settings. If I say, no, this is different, this is a special stair, I want it to be different, I can control it and I can say, hey, I don't really want that description showing. And now, it just says up, right? And, we have some other controls here to make the, change that. But in case you were wondering about that, I would probably just do these as, as what you have here in terms of dimension, maybe using a dimension line with a little circle. Or just a label tool. Anyway, all right, let's go to the thing by saying merge. So we can say interoperability merge. So what does merge allow us to do? It allows us to bring into the current file something else, either an Archicad file or sometimes, possibly from another source. I'm not quite sure. You can merge in DWG. Yeah, so let's just say merge from file here, and here is in my downloads, build the storage all files. Let's see if we can bring this in. What do we want to merge, the virtual building or the layout book? Well, this is just for a fill, so I'm assuming whatever you sent me is just on the plan as a fill. So merge this, and it's, oh, there's a whole bunch of stuff here. I'll just bring it in. I don't care so much what's in it. I'll just make sure it's not on top of everything else that we're doing. And here I have what you did. So there's nothing much to see. It's obviously an empty file, but when we merged it, that fill should be there. So if I go to options fills, what did you call that fill?
I think it's like wood stud. I mean, if you do a search for stud, it should be somewhere in there.
All right, I don't see wood stud. All right, so unfortunately in the fill tool, we don't have a search.
You could just select the little
Wood
stud
trim,
in plan.
vectorial fills, wood underlayment symbol fills.
Just a symbol, I think.
Well, stud. Oh, just has the word stud. Okay. So what does stud look like?
That's not it.
We zoom in on it.
Nope, that's not it.
Oh, okay, so it's not this stud.
That was my first attempt and it failed miserably. So it's called wood-stud and, oh, it's a material?
Oh, it's a building material. Okay, so all right, let's do that. All right, so we have options, building materials, and we have, so I've got it showing all of them rather than just in
the top there.
all of them, and I'll say sort by name here, and so wood stud. Okay, and it's using wood structural as the hatch pattern. So wood structural is this one. This is the appearance on plan as opposed to, I'm sorry, no, this is the appearance on the outside, and this is the appearance in a section. Okay, so stud 1 is the fill.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so if I draw, so now that I know that, if I draw a wall, actually this would maybe be,
More like a beam.
yeah, so let's just take a beam and say that we're going to do a beam that is,
I set it to a 6-inch stud. I think you might have to make each fill be a different size for each.
Say 1 1/2 high, and you said 6 inch, so 5 1/2 inch.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to just take this here. All right, so I have a beam here. Let's just take a look at it in 3D. It doesn't look like too much in this view here. Let's look at the section. So I think if you find, when I brought it in, it actually brought in, I think that's the section. I can say open this section, and that's, here it is. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, the fill, if you link the fill to the element instead of the origin, that will take that X and locate it within your stud, and then I would just quickly grabbed like the masonry, the concrete block.
So I'm seeing this volume that is a beam.
Yeah.
And it's supposedly, well, actually this one, you know what, maybe the issue is I didn't select your building material. So
Yeah.
there, okay, wood stud. All right. Is that it? Or I typed in stud. So maybe, why would it not, you had stud one
You have to like distort the fill instead of it just being, I just grabbed the concrete block fill.
right, well, let me just go back to building material, and we had wood stud.
Oh, here, fill orientation. Yeah, set it to, okay, that's all right, shoot.
All right, so wood stud is the building material. That's what I just told it to use,
Yeah.
and it is using stud one, but this is made out of wood stud. So I'm not sure, it's not doing,
Go to first floor, go to the plan, and then zoom in on, I started with just drawing a fill. So that little guy. Yep.
Yeah.
So I got it to work there. So.
Well, this is.
Those lines are showing that the fill is distorted.
Right, okay. So this is a 2D fill that you've just said, hey, I want to have the fill origin starting here. You can do that on plan. You cannot do it in a building material in a section.
So I guess the fill just needs to be that like aspect ratio, and it would work in section?
No, because you can't control the origin point.
Oh, you can't?
No, that was the issue, is that you could have a fill that looks like it. So by the way, this is a fill, and just to clarify for anyone else, you can see here's the X. Maybe it'll be clearer if I, stretch this this way. Come on now. So it's repeating, no problem. And you can go to you have the fill that says it has a custom origin. So unfortunately, I have to move the origin this way, but you can see this origin. So if I put this back here, so I can move this origin around on plan like that. But in the elevation or in a section, it's not going to work. So good try, but not going to work in a section, because you can't choose an origin point for a fill in a section. You can choose an origin point for a surface appearance, like for tile work on the outside of an element, but you can't choose an origin point for a section fill.
Okay.
At least as far as I know. Maybe they will change it. Okay.
Great.
Thanks for a good college try.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm looking at other comments here. Mark wrote, could change treads to concrete as well. So that was a comment based on that stair. And it turned out we didn't even need to have treads. We just needed to be able to select the tread, theoretical tread location by going to the corner. But, so All right, and Jacek says, brilliant, didn't know this was possible. Nice save. All right. Eric Reinhardt says, R. Kelly's Killer Stairs. It is interesting to explore powers of the stair tool, but I hope we all know this stair is totally illegal, and if you put it in your drawings like this, you could end up in court. Well, this is an as-built, so it's documenting existing conditions. All right. Mark Hessa, great, found the select spot. Archicad is ever more complex along with capabilities. Okay, there you go. Steve Fribble asks, can you add a railing to that stair? Yeah, you probably can add it, and I'm not sure whether the balusters, if you had balusters on it, would be hard to make them sit on there. But if you had something that was just a diagonal base, you know, sort of one of those ones that has posts, and then you have a diagonal between the posts, that could work. All right. So Mark says, an observation, drafting X is for speed and 2D drafting, maybe use another fill to designate caps and fire blocks, etc. Okay. Yeah, so in the old days, you just, that's very fast. But yeah, there may be other conventions that we could consider using. All right. So, so we did, let me just see, what do we have here? So we're near the 2-hour mark. Time flies, my goodness. You guys having fun? Did you find this interesting? Or did it get boring because I spent too much time on each question? I don't know. All right, let's see. Automatic reply out of office. Okay, this is, please look at my last building. Can we cooperate my BIM models? Okay. Unless this person is on the call, I'm not going to look at it now. Nicola. Nope, not on there. Okay. So decline, this person isn't coming. Mamadi, did Mamadi show up? I told him, he sent me a really interesting, Mamadi, you're on here. Why didn't you let me know? Mamadi, I'm gonna open up your line. Okay, so let me, yeah, this was another stair. It's interesting, all of these stair questions. So look at this stair. It's not super exotic, but it's tricky. Here. Mamadi, your line is open. I hope you're there. I mean, you're logged in.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. I'm just driving.
You're driving?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Okay, so we can talk, and
Yes.
assuming if you're driving, you're not able to see the screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I have it on my phone. I'm
Okay.
listening. Yeah.
All right. Okay, well then I will play around with this because it's an interesting little thing.
Yeah.
See if I can do it, and then it looks like I can't zoom in on it this way, but if I download it, then I can zoom in on it. Not that it's too detailed, but okay. So what's unique about this stair? Well, okay, it on this lower section, we've got, you know, let's say short blocks, and then we've got long platforms there. So how could we do that just conceptually? Well, if we made the stair all the short block and then we extended stuff out to the side, that could work. So I'll play around with that, at least conceptually. And then we have an upper staircase that looks much more conventional, you know, just with some stringer support going into, burrowing into the wall. You know, I don't know how it's going to be attached to the wall. But you know, that's more conventional. So we'd probably just want to do it as two separate staircases or two separate stair elements, although you could probably perhaps do it as a stair, a landing, and another, you know, a stair with a landing and two flights that are quite different. But most likely they'll work very similarly. So let's just see how we do this. This is an interesting little thing. Now I'm going to use, now you're in France, so I know this would all be metric. So I guess I'll just open up. What version of Archicad are you in, Mamadi?
25 and 6.
So if I did it in 26, would it be okay, or does it have to be a 25?
Yeah, yeah, that was okay. That's okay.
All right, so I'm going to start up 26 international version. Now, for those of you who don't know, Graphisoft produces worldwide versions of Archicad. The difference between the US and the other versions intrinsically is that when you have one story in the building, in the US it's called story 1, and then you go up to 2, 3, 4, and if you have a story below that, it's -1, and going down from there. In other parts of the world, and maybe Canada is the same as that, but in other parts of the world, a single story is story 0, and then it goes up from there. So, I'm familiar with, in Britain, you would say I'll go up to the first floor by going up a staircase from, story 0, the ground floor. Anyway, obviously it also, people work in metric in most parts of the world. You can switch a US version to metric, but you can't switch the ground floor to be from 1 to 0. However, if you open it in a French version or a British version, it will say the ground floor is 0. But just because I want to have a native metric environment, I'll open up the international version here. All right, so that way also, when you tell me verbally, oh, the height of each step is a certain number of millimeters, I'll have that sort of built in. So let's go to the stair tool, and you may know some of these numbers. If you don't, Mamadi, just give me something that's at least a usable number. So how wide would the stair be? The sort of smaller steps.
1 meter.
1 meter. Okay, we got that. 1,000 millimeters. Okay. And we're not going to have it linked to the next story because we're doing it up to a landing and it's all sort of custom. How many steps do we have? Let's just go to this picture here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps up to the landing. All right, so I'm going to say it's 7, but what's the rise for each one of these?
Maximum of 190.
190. All right. So it's
But if you have 187, that's good.
All right. So, and did I say 9 steps? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 steps. And I'm not going to try to rack my head. So if I say 7 times, what was it? 187?
Yes.
187 equals 1309. Okay. So I'll say that it's going up to 1309. And we're going to have 7 steps of 187. There we go. And we want to say that it starts with a riser and it ends with we'll say it ends with a, well, I don't know, ends with a riser. Yeah, because I don't know what's going to happen at the landing. I don't want to deal with that. I just want to have it in there. All right, so now I've got this, and I'm going to turn off all the rules here because these obviously are, this is not a standard one. Just do this. So I have no rules. I've just had 7 steps. This is the riser. How deep would these steps be?
240.
240. Now, why is it not? I'm looking here.
300 or 300. It doesn't matter. 240, 300.
Okay. Now, why is it? This is the rise, 187. Why is it not letting me put in the depth? If I say fixed. Okay. So here. So you say 300 is fine?
Yeah, 300 is fine. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now I'm going to be drawing something that has 7 steps, each step 300. What is that? A third of a meter is, about 12, 13 inches there. So each step is 13 inches, and they're going up 187, which is a little bit under a fifth of a meter. So about 7 inches, something like that. Anyway, okay. So I'll say, okay, that at least is a starting point. I'll just draw this. You see, no matter how long I make it, it'll just do the 7 steps because that's what I defined. All right. And actually, let me just do it going this way. All right. So now if I go to 3D, we'll see something here. And let's take this and go into the structure. And right now, I'm going to say that it's the monolithic structure. It goes down just solid down to the bottom. So I'm not talking about the landing, so it's only this part here. And we'll say that there's no finish here because it's just solid wood. I just want to do a conceptual version of that. Say OK, and now we have this. Now, if I wanted to, and let's just make it wood so it looks more like what you had. So I say, well, we're going to do it. I edit, if I select this and open up the stair settings, why am I not? Here, I wanted to select this here. Okay, so let's go to the structure. Is made out of concrete. Let's just call it wood just for now, because it looks like wood. And plywood. That's gross, but why wasn't it? Oh, because it's an internal here. So let's just say this way and wood. Oh, it's only one wood here. All right, well, that's what it'll be. Maybe it has to be, maybe when I say this, I could do pine or something. Pine? No? What? Do I not? I have plywood. There's no timber. Oh, timber. Okay. Yeah, let's call it timber floor. All right. That's a little better. All right. So we'll have that. Now, can we extend these things? If we had a tread, we know that we can extend it. But let's see if I say edit this and I select, now what was the image here? All right, so the first one is narrower than the second one goes further here. So if I select this tread here, and let's just do a quick test. If I say, where's my editing thing? All right, so that's the theoretical thing that's there. But it did not pull that out. So we're gonna not be able to use the, what do you call it, the monolithic one for this type of shape. So what I'm gonna do is I'll say, what if we were to, actually not change the tread settings, let's change the stair settings and say, hey, what if we put on just finish, no structure, and the finished tread, well, let's just see what happens if I do this here. All right, so now you can see that I can pull this out, but can I change the thickness of it? I can't grab this. The tread here, we can have its height. I can change its height. Can I change the settings of it? Could I make it really thick? So this particular tread, can I make it really huge? Yeah. Well, would you look at that? I don't know if that's, obviously it's not the right height. 187, so it would have to be twice 187. 360, 374, 374. There. Okay. And what if I made this one 187? Here. Okay. So now we have a little thing with the fact that this I've chosen that the treads in general have a nosing, and I don't really want a nosing, so I'll say turn off nosing. Now that turned off the nosing for all of these ones that hadn't been modified, but these two treads, because they had been modified, they still had what they were thinking of was a nosing. So, all right, so now we have it square. Hey, look at that. That's starting to look a little bit like what it needs to. So if I take this and say 3 times 187, 540, 561. So 561 here. So this is at least potentially a way that one could do it. And this, if I select the tread, I can pull this out as far as I need to there. So can we get this result here? Yeah, it's certainly looking like I could do it. Now the other way is, hey, let's just do it as a slab, and another slab, and another slab, and another slab. You know, that might be even easier than the staircase. I don't know. And of course, how is it going to be built? It's not going to be solid volumes of wood. It's going to have some sort of support. So, you know, I'd be, while I have shown how you could get something with the stair tool, I'd be tempted to just make this a la carte, you know, just make it out of the pieces that it needs to be. But conceptually, I'm pretty quickly able to get something, you know, just take this one or take this one, and I just have to type in values, unfortunately. So this is 370, the 748, I guess, maybe 748. And then hit the edge of that to there. All right. Now we do have this issue here that we have a gap here. This should be filled in. And I take this and I can extend this to there. So now let's just look at it in a line a view where it's a little easier to see. So if I change my 3D view options to basic pictorial, seeing something like that. Okay, so that's actually not bad, but this is going down through there, and this is passing through it. So we're not seeing the line. If we were to do a line work version, let's see if I go to technical drawing, you see we're missing this line there. So how would we do that? Well, I could say this tread here actually is going to have a new node point. And the node point, let's just post it there. I'm not sure what's going to be the most efficient, but I'll get it in line there. And I'll move this node point up to where it snaps to this. And I'll take this and add a new node point and snap it here. So now I basically have said this is built around it. And we should have a line there. Maybe I have to bring this, this in just a hair. I'm not sure. Not sure why it required, you know, maybe because these are, I guess, the stair settings overall vertical there, but maybe I have to turn off any overhang. So if we have finish spread, yeah, it says 15 millimeters overhang. So I'd want to turn that off right at the beginning, 0 here, and take each one of these and say it's going to have a 0 overhang there, and 0. And the reason I'm having to do these individually is that here it's not letting me change that there. No nose in there. 0. Interesting. So this one allows me to do it, but this one, I guess because this is an irregular shape, not a rectangular one. So I'm not quite sure. It looks like this is sticking out here. So I just have to pull this where it snaps. Yeah, that works. All right, so I'm not sure about the heavy borders, but this is certainly with a little bit of experimentation, you could get something there. Now, what does it look like on plan? Oh, you can see this is part of the issue is that this it's not in line there. So yeah, pull these. So is this any easier than just doing it with the slab tool? I'm not at all convinced, but it is interesting to know that you can, just get this. Now, what's going on here? It looks like the riser is not in line with that, so I can move the riser here. Can I move the riser here? Yeah. So you can play around with it, and you can get a good clean result. Probably turning off the nosing or the overlap would be good. And this is 3D. Something. Yeah. Now it's starting to look a little bit cleaner and matching the this appearance. So that would be a way to do it. You could do it with the slab tool. I'm not going to demonstrate that, but just create a number of slabs and just stretch them. And of course, this could just sit on top of the other one as opposed to going down to the bottom. And maybe that's actually what I should have done with the other one. Come to think of it, is this. Can I change the height? No, I can't. I actually have to. If I change the height in here to be the 187. Now it's sitting on top of this, and this one could be just a rectangular shape. That would have been simpler. Just leave it as a rectangular and have this sit on top. So we say this one.
What is going on with this guy?
This edge, just take it back to there, and then this one make it the 187, and that might just be the simplest. There we go. Okay. So there is that. Now the other one, the other part of the stair, and we are over the 2-hour mark. So I appreciate those of you who stayed on. If we just look at the stair, is there anything unusual with the image here? It just looks like, and if we zoom in a little bit on this here, it just looks like a standard riser or a stringer, and this is looks like maybe it's a little profile tread. So what does this mean? If you wanted to have a tread that had just this little lip and it wasn't in the standard library, you could create a custom profile and say, I'm going to define that profile for use in a stair. And then, or you could actually create a model something that was just this piece, save it as an object, but make the object its type a stair tread, and then you could select it in the stair tool. So I think we've run out of time to demonstrate that, but that would be more straightforward. And this stringer here, well, this is you have to see what settings. So there are some things here, and what is going on? It looks like, I don't know, there's probably a handrail up there. The image is so, it doesn't give us much access to this, but it looks like maybe this is glass with some frame. So, another time or in my coaching program, I could help you with that, Mamadi. So this is all recorded, Mamadi, and I hope you weren't too frustrated just hearing me talk. But,
yeah.
But I'll send you the copy of the file that I've created, and it'll be at least something to study.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome. All right. So I see some comments. We'll finish up now. I'll just read off some comments. Great session as usual. We appreciate your time and dedication. Thank you, Mark. Mackenzie, Lifest, who's been a guest with Tracy Stone. She works with Tracy. I've been using the software for 12 years and I'm still learning new things. Always interesting to see how others use the software. Thanks for showcasing these interesting topics. My pleasure. William Gray, couldn't you use a complex profile with 2 types of fill to create the X on a stud? That's, I did use multiple types of fill to create the X on the stud. That's how I did it. Yeah, I created it out of 4 triangular pieces, each one with a different type of fill, different type of building material. Yasek, could you duplicate the stair and revise the duplicate to be twice as high as the original and blend seamlessly? I suppose so. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to here. Yasek, your line, let me open you up. Yasek's another one of my very long-time clients. How are you doing, Yasek?
Hi, Eric. I'm doing great, thanks.
Good.
What I was thinking is, instead of modifying the stair, creating this first stair with equal risers and then duplicate it, move the duplicate over and eliminate every other riser. And whether or not, if they are built of the same material, would they blend seamlessly together?
Well, let's take a quick look at, so if I were to take, let's see, exit edit mode here, and let's just take this stair. I know what you're talking about, but let's say if I were to drag a copy of it here, okay, and let's look in 3D. All right, yeah, you can see that that it is blending the materials here. So yeah, so if you had a stair that had every other step, yeah, that would be an interesting thing. So you could run one stair, you know, a normal stair, and then next to it be a stair that had just every other step.
That's like amphitheater stair, very commonly, used in outdoor venues, concerts, and so on. So
yeah, so I don't think I'll explore this further right now, but yeah, that would be an interesting thing. Just have one simple stair and one with, yeah. So well, actually, you know what? I can't resist. Let me, because I think I can at least conceptually say. So let's go here and say, what if we had? I'm going to eyedrop this stair. Actually, yeah, eyedrop this stair. That stair has a certain dimension, and let's. Well, actually, we'll face it the other way. No, take it up. All right, so that's one stair, and I'll take another stair here, and then this stair, I'm going to change it to be, in terms of this, it's a 7 at 187, and I'm going to say that I'd like it to be
74.
Well, it's going to say 4 at 187, 360, 374. So unfortunately, I have to say 4 times 374 is 4 times 3, 1200, 1480, 1496. I might be right. I don't know if I am. 1496, 374. Yeah. Okay. Except that I need the run to be longer. I need the run to be 600. There we go. Okay. So you can see we've got 3 going on. Well, let's just see what it looks like. Did I do it right? Well, now if we make these, except that this is going up.
It's reversed.
You have to play around with it to get this to be right, but you can see how it's blending in, and it is doing, some interesting. If this one was down that much there, and we had both of these as monolithic structure, here that went down to the bottom and then had no tread here. Okay. So that is, is definitely on the right track there. And you can change the depth of this this base if you needed to structure here. This is how deep it is. So if I said minus 187, I'm not sure how that would work, but yeah, there, I just brought it up. So now, so obviously that's a much more elegant solution than what I had, and it looks good on 3D. Obviously I just need to, figure out how the height. That's actually a much more elegant one. On plan, obviously, they both look funny, so you might just have to draw lines. Turn off the. Certainly, we don't want break lines for either of them. Turn off floor plan display here. We don't want break mark. Oh no, we say floor plan display and on relevant story, just relevant story. We're just going to say no break mark visible. So that's better there, and maybe we say for this one, for this one we don't have a wall. We're getting a bunch of background noise from something. I'm not sure who it is.
I think probably close. Gonna.
All right, yeah, it's you. All right, Mamadi, thank you. So we'll just say turn off the walking line there. Okay. And then we can turn off the description here. So this is the description there. Okay, so there is an issue here that this is a continuous line in 3D, and we have a line there. So I'm not quite sure whether we can get rid of that line and only have it selectively there.
I think that would actually work quite well because it shows you the walking definition of stair, of the actual stair, and then the rest is seating, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need a little cleanup.
But it doesn't. But you can't tell which is the flat. I mean, anyway, I'll just do one quick and dirty thing, which is if you need to, and sometimes this can work, is you can say, I'm going to draw something with a white line here. This is that's 0 millimeters. Let's see, do we have? These are all white, but they have no thickness. Let's just see if I draw this here. You can see. So that's a way to cover it up. I don't know if you can do anything better than that there, but yeah, that's an elegant way to do it.
Great. Well, I would never think of it until I saw you do this process there. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah. All right. So let's just see in that photo. Yeah. So it does start with a single step separate and then goes to the seating thing. So so here's a single step separate. So actually, if I what do we have? So I moved it down. So we're going to move it back up there. Change the base to be the structure here to be just at 0 there, and then drag this back to there. So that's actually what it should be. I think it's and we'll just drag it to the other side because it's actually, at least in its picture, it was on that side there. So now that looks pretty good. I guess I'm not sure what's going on up at the top, but that would be easy to adjust. So look at that compared to the picture. It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So thank you, Jacek, for suggesting that. Okay, so Steve Pribble says, what is the symbol that keeps showing up next to your cursor that looks like piano keys? Let's see, what would it be next to my cursor? Not sure. I don't know.
Were you using the measure tool?
Measure.
That looks like piano keys, a little.
Yeah, maybe it could be. When I was drawing the line tool.
I think it's the tread editor.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So if we're in this and we go to edit, then and we select a tread, okay, that's the piano keys. All right, so this is the symbol says, do you want to select just as one tread, or do you want to select all the treads going up, all the treads going both directions, or all the treads going down? So this is all treads up, or all treads down. So it's a quick way to say I want to modify a bunch of treads all at once. You have the same symbol or similar symbol or functionality in the curtain wall tool, where you can say I'd like to modify all the mullions or all the what's the other transom elements in a row. You know that they even though they might not actually be mullions or transoms, they're just, you know, pieces that are horizontal or vertical. And in this case, it's all the treads in a flight. So that's a good question, Steve. All right. Okay, so Mara corrected my stair. Stairs have smaller steps to be the depth of the stair. Okay, thank you. If you reopen the same file, you can see a stud that shows the X in okay, so Morgan has, if we reopen the same file, okay, so I guess I can't resist checking this out. So let me just save this one. So we'll get out of Stair editing mode, go here to, see, but see this, we had this issue here was this one was, so let's actually, let me just edit this and we'll take just this tread and send it out to there. Did that work in 3D? Well, that's interesting. What the hell happened there? Look at that. Oh, did I somehow change the height? Whoa, look at that. It looks good, and then when I let go, it comes back. So let me undo that. What did I do? So I must have done something funny. Or I was in editing mode. Maybe it was because I'm in editing mode. That's what it is. I was just going to extend this back here, but let me not do that. Let me save this and then I can switch over. So we have save this as a solo project. Oh, untitled. I'll give it a name later. All right. So what are we doing here? We're doing untitled. This is the one here. So I need to open it again. I need to download it again. The file that you had. So this is your link. So this is Morgan's link, and let me copy that link. So you're saying that it's the same linked file.
Yeah.
Updated it. I'll say download this. Okay, so now we're going to go back to Archicad here, and I'll say I want to open the new copy of it that came in and automatically put a 1 next to it. So I'll say I don't need to save this. So what am I seeing? I'm in a section.
Yeah, it's just a stud, but it's drawn with 1 instead of 4.
But why do we have these extra lines in here?
Oh, that's just the random fill that, you know, you get assigned when you draw a new profile.
All right, I'm not quite clear here. So let's see. This is a beam. This beam is a complex profile. Let's open up this complex profile. This is a single, so it's a single element
Right.
here, and it has. So this is what I was talking about at one point. This is a single one that just has more complex shape that looks like it has line work. Yeah. So that so if you go into the corner, you know, you've just notched it out in here. I've seen it also where this is taken up to the corner and basically it's a diamond or, you know, a very thin sliver, but this is fine.
Yeah, I think this quantifies better, and like when it gets sliced, it sometimes the other one gets wonky.
Okay. All right. Well, we certainly want to make this one it's a building one, you know, empty. Okay, we don't have building materials there. We probably have airspace strong.
Right.
Or we could do, there's trim, well, no, I don't know what in the standard one, framing, and metal framing, not metal, obviously. Stud, with stud, okay, that has all the little cross things. But let me just do airspace strong. So it's not going to be air, and it shouldn't be, well, it's going to be transparent. That's not going to work. Generic, we'll just say generic interior. Okay, so generic interior has no line work there. Okay, and so this looks like line, but it's actually you know, multiple pieces. So you say this quantifies better?
I think so, yeah. I've seen it in like another template drawn that way, and it when they're doing takeoffs, it works way better than like doing the 4 wedges.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I'll have to look into that. Thanks for sharing that. And if I now say save this, we'll see this now looks cleaner when I go to the section. So we're not now talking about a fill that has to be aligned. We're talking about a shape that looks like it's got, you know, a crosshatch. It's just basically been notched. If we zoom in on it, we will see.
And you can see it in 3D.
So if we look in 3D,
when you highlight it or get in closer, yeah. Whoa.
So not okay. You have to. It is just barely visible. But if we change this to simple shading or something like that, oh no. Line material. There we go. Okay. Yep. It will show up in a line work there. Now there is a question when you cut a section through it. You do want to see the X. When you have it at the end, you know, and it's exposed, you want to see it.
Right.
So the way that I have it has that minor advantage, and that is it will show in a section, but it will not show on the end because the end will have its own control. But this will always have like this very thin little slit, you know. Anyway, yeah, if it quantifies better, if it serves your purposes, this is certainly a good way to approach it. Okay. So I see comments, Jacek saying, you've shown me the stair tool functions I wasn't aware of. Excellent. Mackenzie, your way to draw the stud is also better because you can have interior X lines be lighter and outside be darker outline. Okay, so let's open Mackenzie's line here. All right, so when we have a, what do you call it? This is our, what do you call it? Our definition of the complex profile. Now, this element is just one element, and it does have a uniform outline to begin with, but you can go, and let's say this is pen 11, which is a thin 0.18, relatively thin. If I wanted this to be thicker, I can go to the edge of this and say I'd like to change this edge, and I can say its line should be pen 1, which is much thicker, right? Now, if I change my view, I'm not sure if we can see this here, but let's see if I say true line weight. Oh, no, we're not seeing it here, but true line weight, unfortunately, is causing this stretch things to show. Well, let's turn off the width and height stretch there. But let's just say that I take that, and I'll take this one and do the same thing. I'll say that I want it to be pen 1 here. All right, and then I'll say save this. Now, if we go to the section, you can see with the true line weight that this is now, showing thicker there. So that would work regardless whether you had 4 separate pieces or one piece with a bunch of extra lines. You can basically control the edges of individual ones. Now this, pen 1 is too much, and at 1/4 inch scale, it becomes pretty muddy there. If you're at a detail scale like 1 inch to a foot, then it may be more reasonable. If I had these around there. So let's take this and say that this guy is not 11, which is a sort of medium weight. Let's make it 0.09, something like that. And then let's make this edge, instead of 1, let's make it like 0.25, so that's 144. Here, this one, 144, and this one, 144, and finally over here, this one, 144. Okay, save this. Now we go to the section. Now the problem is here, we can see this is sort of a reasonable thickness. These are actually 2 separate ones, but they're so close together that they, you can't get it too thin, right? So that is a potential issue because you have 2 lines there rather than 1. Can we get it any thinner? This is 0.09. No, this is as thin as you can go. Can you get it a 0? Do we have a 0? No, 0.09 is, yeah, there's nothing that's defined as 0 in the US one. There's a 0.05, this one. Okay, let's just try that. Save. No, still there, okay. How much of a difference does that make? I don't know. So Mackenzie, your line is open if you want to say hello or just have a comment.
Hello?
Yeah, hey.
Hey, yeah, sorry, I didn't realize you could change them individually like that. That's such a handy tip.
Yeah, it's there's limitations to things, but basically you can select any fill that's in a complex profile, and you can change its settings for all of the polygon outline, and then you can also go to the edge, and you can change the edge in 2 distinct ways. One is what's its line weight or pen number, and the other is what is the color of it. What's the surface? Oh, this is a recessed part that's actually metal, as opposed to the wood, or whatever. So that's how you can have your complex profile have, you know, some more differentiation.
Yeah, great. That must be a relatively new feature, because I just remember the old school way of where you could only change the exterior line and then where the fills met on the interior. So just had
Actually, no, the ability in complex profiles to edit individual edges has been there maybe since the beginning, certainly a very long time.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and again, just in terms of what it's capable of, if I select this and I go to an edge, let's see. So this is, I have to be in the editor here. So I select this and I go to an edge. You go to this option here, which is going to be similar for roof edges as, no, let's see, can you do it? Yeah, I think you can do it for roof edges, roof faces. I can't remember now. But anyway, so here, this is, it's saying this edge, what does it look like in 3D? What's the surface occurrence? What's its line work? Oh, and here's cut line, show cut line. Interesting. And then you can do it to the click edge or whatever there. So let's just see, what if I can go in here and just for the heck of it, can I take this edge here and say, don't show the cut line. Ah, look at that. And let's do it on this one as well. Don't show cut line. Look at that. So now it's going to be a single one there. So let's store this. Go to the section. No, it's still maybe, of course, sometimes you have to rebuild from here. No. So I'm not quite sure.
Really, really close together.
Yeah. Anyway, but that's interesting that you can remove the cut line. You know, it still exists. There is still an edge there, but it, you know, you can say, hey, I don't want to show that.
Oh, it's so nice.
Yeah. Actually, let's just see if I can go in and at least temporarily say, what if I remove both of them there? We don't see a line there. Okay. So, oops, save this. Okay. All right, let's go to the section. Ah, there it is. Okay. In fact, I was probably looking at the wrong side here, but so in theory, then I could go and say one edge. This one will say, yeah, do show the cut line. 1011 is 0.18. That's pretty thick. Let's do 0.09 there. Save, and yeah, there we go. Okay. So, you know, it's a little tedious and it took a little while to experiment, but, you know, we could get it with thin lines here and thick on the outside.
And then you could also just turn off a couple and turn it into blocking instead of, yeah.
Well then, but this is in the definition of it, and you might as well just make it, you know, not have as many complexities, you know, so just have one notch for the blocking, you know, or whatever. Anyway, yeah, in master template, I'll show you here that we have, I go to profile manager and I go to framing. Here's blocking, one piece, another piece, right? Here is finish. See, each of these is a separate piece. Here is general. Each one is a separate piece. And I have two that are similar, but just have different names so that when they're side by side, it doesn't remove the edge line in between them. And we have simple, which is just going to be, you know, a single mono element. We have structural, which is exactly the same as the other ones, except that it's got a different name. So by naming general, general 2, and structural differently, even though they're all with 4 pieces, if you put them side by side or stacked on each other, it will retain a line between them. Whereas if you put two that are the same next to each other, it'll say, oh, they're the same, we don't need a line. And of course, they are separate discrete elements. So this was an elaborate setup. I mean, not too elaborate, but it required a lot of thought to be able to get line work that you could control properly. Anyway, that's what we have in Master Template. All right, well, this has been a marathon session. I'm glad that I was able to illuminate some of you who are veterans, with some things, as well as I love, Jacek, your suggestion of the staircase and just saying, oh, that's so much more elegant. It's nice to know that you can change the tread thickness and get some effects, but for what that particular stair was, much better to just have one regular stair and one that's every other step and just put them side by side, Alrighty, so we have still 33 people on the line, so thank you all for joining me. Let me know how I can help you with Archicad or with the Architect Marketing Institute if you're interested in getting some help with your marketing and business development. That's my other business. You can reach out to me, support@bobrow.com, just say, hey, I'm an Archicad user, but I'd like to talk to you about marketing, and I'll be happy to connect you up with our team. So thank you all for joining me, and we'll see you perhaps next month. Bye-bye.